So this is going to be patch notes aftermath, just regarding my specific version of Poison Seismic, like this feelgood version thing. You can find a link in the description. And gonna go over the content real quick. We're gonna do a really quick TLDR. Then I curated for myself basically some really build affecting changes or possibly affecting changes, also some positive stuff as well. We're going to talk a bit about leveling, things that I find interesting, some opportunities that might arise, as well as some miscellaneous random stuff. TLDR so far, what I've seen like the most significant things is reservation efficiency. Got nerfed on the masteries, right? You can take these skill-specific ones anymore. Shouldn't be a problem with the current reservation state, and some extra we got on a minor node that is closed, so that seems to have no effect other than some fiddling with the tree. There are some numerical nerfs, especially to cooldown and 25% chance to like double proc traps and stuff. On a first look, it looks like a 40% damage nerf, roughly, which sounds huge, and is actually huge. I did some quick testing earlier, and it feels like it doesn't really matter, depending on what content you want to do. So yeah, it should be roughly 40%, without trying to, because we got to get a few skill points back now, without trying to reinvest or trying any new masteries, just flat out how it looks. There will be some leveling adjustments, definitely, regarding skills. Stuff is slower now. Vendor checks got nerfed, I think, by the way, which is interesting. So we're just going to take longer to walk to Act 10, I guess. So it doesn't change the build itself. Big one, or possibly big one, is the diadem got nerfed. Or the drop rate got nerfed. The item didn't get nerfed, it still exists, but something happened to the drop rate, and they didn't say what, or at least to unique drops from Katarina. So yeah, it's probably dead, and it's probably less popular now, or less often. Who knows? Might be anything. Maybe it's just for racing, just a little bit adjustment, so it's no longer viable for racing, or it's I don't know, some mage blood tier now. We don't know. That was really well hidden, which I find a bit annoying, because it seems such a targeted nerf to that item. But fair enough. Overall, my conclusion so far, I think we are fine. I'm gonna do some more in-depth testing with like a gimped character right after this, and then upload it. So if it's in the description, then it's already there. Have a look there if you want to see some gameplay. So things that I believe will affect the build. That's the things I found immediately. Some next to fatal toxins, we lose some 5% poison duration. There's the master sapper node that has moved, and I already found it because PoE Planner already updated the tree, which is kind of cool. It's this node here. It's this master sapper trap throwing speed. It was right here, I believe. Should have been this one right there. It's now over here, which changes the pathing a bit, but the node is still there. Might be a bit annoying to get to, because you have to skip over this thing first. But it's on our general path anyway, so that's actually fine. Obliteration is now an imbued one. It changed the base, because a lot of bases got flat damage now, flat ally damage. This one is not in the list of flat ally damage, so it might just be basically the same amount, just different spell damage value on it, so doesn't matter. Molten Shell got nerfed, as well as Wild Molten Shell, so we have significantly less armor actually on this thing, like a cut in half, right, for the maximum. I don't know, what, 10 to 20%. We will see. It's just a guard skill. We can use a different guard skill. It's fine. Should be okay, even though, yeah, defensives are kind of important for us. Corruption got nerfed. That's like, it wasn't really, I didn't use it, but maybe I find it. There was a note here, or it's still there. Like this one had like way more, 35% or so wither effect, so it was a possible anoint. That now is definitely out of question. Doesn't matter, didn't use it anyway. For some reason, Withering Step can now be used with spell totems. I have no idea what this means, but I don't know. We use the skill at least. as I already said in the TLDR, Katarina's item drop unique thing got nerfed, so we have no idea what's gonna happen. But that's my original comments, by the way, when I did read the patch notes the first time. So yeah, we will see what happens with that. It might be really expensive now. It might be hard to come by now. It might not be that bad. Overall, fine. We can compensate for that. The build worked along like very easily beforehand without a diadem, even for a prolonged period of time. Yeah, it's even a stopping point to say, okay, I will never get a diadem. I will just stop, farm with the build here, get my 30, 50 divines, and then just go on and do something else. So I'm not worried really about this change too much. Would be sad if it's like insanely expensive, which I don't think it will be. There are reservation efficiency actually on these new item trees that exist now. That's like a temporary borrowed power, but maybe you can actually get some additional efficiency on your weapon and shield, which would be interesting. So I don't know, just like a side note. Uniques have trees as well, as far as I can tell, and they need to be like unlocked, but it's not that easy. I think you need an extra item, need to go into an extra zone, depending on how available that is. Since the build uses uniques, obviously, right? Which it doesn't have to. They're not build enabling, but they're so easy, you know, to use it. So that means uniques might be more expensive because people try to get stuff on it. The ones I'm using, like obliteration and the shield, I don't think a lot of people are gonna try to make them fancy. It's unlikely. I also think on the same side, if you just want the unique to get started, right? You just want the unique effect and you don't care about the tree. It does mean that maybe the ones with a hidden tree are going to be more expensive, but the ones that have already a revealed tree that people don't seem useful might be super, super cheap. Yeah, maybe you can snack something up because one node on there, like it's cheaper than the regular one, and one node you can already see is really, really good. I mean, we're talking couple C uniques here, so I don't know. That's the thing with the uniques. Kind of going into that, the build currently uses 2 uniques, right? And that would be dumb, right? In a league where you can make really cool rare items, and making really cool unique items would be way harder. I said earlier that the uniques are not required. They're just very convenient right now. So I see myself just get the uniques in any whatever base version, see if I can like maybe spam unveil more of them over time to get a really good one, or just collect high-level bases of appropriate weapons or whatever, and like unveil them. Or not unveiling, it's called different, imbue them, I think, to see until I have a base type that has a really good tree. Because in my head, what will happen is you will not craft a really cool weapon or find a really cool weapon and then hope to unveil something good, right? You need to, that would be crazy, or crazy lucky if that happens. So what you will do is you look at trees of different bases, essentially, and once you find a good tree, or even go to this expensive, but who cares, combining trees is out of order for normal people. That's going to be so expensive and so rare, like it always is. So you get this base type, find a really cool tree, and then you need to craft with it. And that should be actually fairly okay to like find a really good tree. If you find a really good tree, it should be very easy to get like +1 and multi-craft, like on a weapon, for example. Maybe even 2 stats, something like that. So I don't see it too hard. It might be expensive then to do, but if you have a really cool tree, then it's worth it. And same for the shield. Like getting, if you get a good tree on a shield, probably Shaper shields then, right? We probably want Shaper shields, which might make Shaper farming really cool. In general, Shaper farming might be really cool because people want these base types again, because they want to, you know, kind of burn them, right? Like look at the tree, throw them away, and do stuff like that. So yeah, I think we can really make very value, like really good use out of the system technically. At the same time, from what I've seen in the videos that GGG posted, the build seems also really good for the leap mechanic. or at least good enough, because you channel, and then you have a relatively confined area. They never showed a full channel, so maybe the area gets really gigantic and it's bad again. But if it's a confined area and there's enough time to get a few traps down before the monsters actually get active, it might be really cool. Might work out well, even if you make on accident rather big ones. Typically the build does well with stuff like big essences, even when Archnemesis still was a real thing. Never really had issues with that, so that might be okay, might be cool. So yeah, I think that's fine. My actual prediction is that it's like Calendra. There's a mechanic that sounds cool, but it's so unlikely to get anything useful ever that in, like, I don't know, in a couple hundred hours playtime, you're not gonna find anything. Yeah, that's typically what happens to me with these leaks and this company. But yeah, fine. But yeah, that's was a bit long part, but yeah, I think that's important. There also can be support skills on weapons and shields, I assume. I mean, it's the only two things you can have trees, unless it's like some special items. So that means if you're lucky, you could find something that has a good tree and also maybe frees up a socket. Because a single socket would be enough to not have an unset ring anymore. If you, like, I don't know, get a faster attacks, so you can socket your shield charge in it or something like that. But there could be like a neat, in general, not great tree, but it actually helps you randomly. Like getting a faster attack isn't that great on a shield or something in general. But if it's usable for you, if it's on the unique one anyway or something, that might be really cool. Maybe you can search for it and trade even, save yourself a socket. Sounds nice. We will see about that. We will have higher mana cost because ascendancy changes. We're gonna look at them. There's some mana cost reduction is gone straight away. But there is on the life mastery, there's a thing that it says skills cost life instead of 30% of mana cost. So I believe you need 30% less mana, but you lose a little bit of life. With the recovery stuff the build itself has by attacking, this might actually be a compensation if it's even needed, right? I mean, the other thing to do this is just like get enough energy shield and mana in combination and you're fine anyway. But if needed, maybe you can compensate here with this a bit. Saboteur changed. I'm going to show you the tree in a second. I'll explain on that one. But my current assumption is that we take Born in Shadows first, then Chain Reaction, Pyromaniac, and then this like Clockwork thing. Maybe we actually open it here somewhere. I don't know. This one isn't. They are also confusing to look at. I don't know. Maybe we used actually a PoE planner one. Let's go here. Okay. So Born in Shadows, same as before. We take first. That's like the blind thing. And then typically we took Pyromaniac, which also hasn't changed, I believe, second, but we can't now, we need to go through this stuff. And in this case, we need to take, so like Born in Shadows first, then we need Chain Reaction. Still has a lot of area of effect on it. And that gives you this when your traps trigger, nearby traps also trigger. And then Pyromaniac. In general, there's a lot more area of effect which we are forced to take now, which actually makes the build weaker, interesting enough. And typically before that, we took Perfect Crime, but it's gone now. And that was the thing that has like the major thing on it, was having 25% chance for traps to trigger twice, which is essentially 25% more damage. And that's gone now. That's like one of the big things. So yeah, this is trigger stuff now. So I mean, there's two options. They would technically be this, but PUB says that's going to be terrible, and I would agree. But there's like Clockwork. And before on the other note, we had 50% increased cooldown recovery rate, but just for trap stuff. And now we have 30% overall, which is obviously going to be quite a nerve. But that's the fourth option. I see that's the thing we're going to take last, I think, and yeah, it just makes sense to do that. Yeah, there's also this weird thing on it that nearby enemies have 10% reduced cooldown recovery rate. So bosses might delay their attacks and phases and things like that, and hopefully also teleporting around. Like if Maven just teleports 10% later, more or less, then I might actually like that. So it might be cool. My prediction is, to be fair, it's gonna brick the game somehow. Some bosses are just gonna be weird and odd stuff is gonna happen. But we will see. So yeah, that's overall change there. That's obviously the big one. The patent, but it's pretty clear to me where we go. It's a pretty big loss. That's fine. That's where the majority of actually nerfy stuff comes from. Whoa, flashbang. Sorry about that. Yeah, this was just numerical stuff I needed. It's basically what we get now numerically out of these new notes. If we talk about masteries that changed and are relevant, we lost 20% effect of Wither. There's no more chaos damage multiplier stuffs for the chaos rest, that is gone. The claw mastery recovery is gone, which was a neat trick for during leveling. I think most people didn't like it, but it was a thing. Nothing to do actually with the build, to be fair. It's a bit wrong in the spot. There is now a 15% spell suppression on the evasion mastery if like most of your gear has evasion. That existed before with 12%. So there's a 15% buff. Not useful for the end game, but maybe somewhere in progression we can sneak in an extra 3%. If we need it, might be cool. Let's see if we need it. There's this other thing that if like your body armor has no life, you get like a ton of life, like 15%. That's cool. But I believe there's a lot of life modifiers. And there's a regen that probably counts as well. So I don't know. Might be cool during leveling for some reason or another. Who knows? Not useful in terms of uniques for us, I think. The life mastery with 10% is gone. We only have to plus 50, that's fine. So a little bit of life nerf there, possibly. Grace reserve thing and Skitterbot reserve thing is gone, but we get a generic 12% on a mana thing, which essentially means in terms of what we can actually use at what point in the game doesn't really change as far as I've seen. There's like no difference than before. Maybe somewhere during leveling, and that's it, maximum. So I don't really care. That's fine. So Poison Mastery lost 20% poison duration. Ooh, that hurt as well, but that's gone. There is, interesting enough, a note now on it that says like if something is poisoned, it can't crit you anymore. So maybe some crit protection, it might actually be really good. I could imagine for dangerous things, maybe just if you have like a dangerous encounter and you roll it accidentally on it, but you want to keep it so you could mitigate crits. Like imagine you roll, somehow you don't want to roll over something and it looks so dangerous and has this huge crit multiplier. You can just ignore this basically. It's no longer a damage mod because they can't crit you, and that's kind of it. And critical elements are also really bad. So this might be actually really good. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but this might be really, really good. Also interesting, I don't think we're going to use it, but there is like a +1 to all maximum elemental resistance, which I really like, this +1% to all. That's really cool. If you somehow reserve life and mana. So there might be some trickery to do that. Just found it interesting. And we do get, right, Perfect Crime had 25% chance to trigger traps again, and there's on a single node an 8%. So that's like essentially an 8% more damage node if we take the Trap Mastery, and we have trap clusters anyway. So that's like 1.8%. That's pretty high value node, I would say. Pretty good node. I would take that on a single skill point. So it makes sense in this case. There is a new recovery mastery that exists now. I don't know if you can do something with it. I don't have really good ideas. There's some regeneration, but we don't scale that. So yeah, classically it would be cool to get some regen into the build, but don't think it's gonna happen. But yeah, it exists now, and there are 2 locations. East of Shadow starting area, and there's one northeast of the Ranger. Also good. So they seem to be in range. If somebody has a really smart idea on how to use that without breaking everything else. So that on that note. Going a bit towards leveling, there is like this new momentum support, and which sounds weird. It's like you get benefits if you stand still, which is probably while you're hitting things, and then you hit them faster, I guess. But as soon as you move, it's gone. So I don't think this helps with movement speed. I don't know. Need some info, and maybe it's cool. Maybe we can try it. Maybe not. And Shadow does get it actually at Mercy Measure. So pretty early on. That's the thing. Items persist at vendor's shop for multiple levels. That sounds to me like a vendor checking nerf, which is weird. I mean, I leveled a lot of characters over time and speed leveled them. Not speed run, I'm not good enough for that, but I think I had it twice or 3 times in total over probably almost 100 characters, where I actually had that issue that I couldn't buy something and I really wanted to buy it later. The only thing where this is cool if you check the town for the first time for wands or something where you really don't have wisdom scrolls and you already see your perfect links, but you don't have enough scrolls and you don't want to mule a character for scrolls, and I don't know, maybe. But after that, it's just, I think it's just a nerf to vendor checking. Even though they can have now rare items, which is completely useless for my purposes. So yeah, there's a multi-shot cluster now, northeast of Ranger, so might be in range to some degree. That gives an extra projectile, which sounds cool for Poison's Concoction, but we're gonna get to that in a second, so maybe it's not that cool. But yeah, just interesting early game additional projectile option. Multiplies your damage typically and leveling things. This is really long, but it essentially means splitting steel got nerfed. So I don't see myself muling that anymore. I'm just gonna go, assuming stays the same, I'm just gonna go Cobra Lash. I'm not gonna deal with muling. I think I don't think it's worth it because I got an early game nerf. Cobra Lash has now the correct projectile speed, I guess. So buff, maybe. I mean, it's not a huge buff to be fair, but it's a buff nonetheless. Who knows? Here's kind of a big one. Poison's Concoction, I need to talk about this at least for a second. Before, if I read this correctly, it would use 2 charges from a single life flask every time you use it. And now it does 1 charge from 1 life flask, which sounds like a buff until you realize it's per projectile. And the idea of leveling the skill was kind of having a lot of projectiles. So I haven't looked too deep into leveling yet and how exactly the math on what flasks you would have and how many you would need to do. I haven't done that yet. It's probably still fine because everything is kind of bad now, and everything is slow anyway. Need to look deeper into this, but yeah, there might be issues with sustaining flasks in this thing, which especially if you wouldn't have so many flask things where the skill is nerfed, the main issue would be because it deals so much damage anyway, right? It's so overpowered. So nerfing it wouldn't be so bad, but it would be bad if the hit portion of the skill would not kill white monsters anymore. That is, because then it would not proc Onslaught anymore. But Onslaught got removed, which is horrible in itself because you're gonna get slower, but we don't need to insta-kill monsters anymore. If now I click once on a pack of monsters, before it needed to die, or at least a bunch of them needed to die immediately and not from the poison, because the poison didn't proc Onslaught. It needed to be the hit. Now, if this entire bag does not die from the hit, but they still die from the resulting poison, or at least enough of them, then there's no difference. Because Onslaught is gone anyway, right? There's no Onslaught to proc. There's nothing to proc, basically. At least for large part of the campaign until you might get it on 3 later on, but who knows. But yeah, Onslaught is gone, so sad times, but we do get faster attacks now, which is interesting and might actually replace Onslaught for a lot of stuff, right? Because if you don't have anything else to put there, earlier fast attack sounds really, really cool. And again, Shadow does get it. on Caged Brute, which is a Brutus, I believe, if you kill him. Really tiny thing, but you can now disable tutorials for your characters. So maybe not useful on League Start, but any further character doesn't have these tutorials anymore, so you don't need to click it. It's going to save you seconds. You're going to be so fast. Some more opportunity things. There's this like profane modifier, which I don't fully understand, but essentially it means more chaos damage, I think, and you're going to get better at it. I don't know why it's a series of profane modifiers. Maybe it's different tiers, and that's what I mean. But overall, they're going to be more chaos damage, which is cool because you typically have quite a bunch of chaos resistance and have an easy time with the current version if they build to get chaos resistance. So it's kind of like a nerf avoidance, I think. So if I read this correctly, it means in maps and content in general, chaos resistance will be more important than before, which is an overall nerf, obviously. Nice, cool. Shouldn't affect us that much, actually. Should be good, actually. Then there's this Maven change, right? It basically means that you get less quant in your Maven limitations, but at the same time, these nodes, if you take Maven stuff, they mean that this 8% increased chance to drop Maven invitations. What this basically means, I believe, is that running or spamming invitations, chaining invitations, means you should not run out of the invitations. You should sustain your invitations more, or actually entirely, maybe. I mean, I don't know how many of these mini nodes there are, and I didn't recheck, but yeah, invitation farming might be buffed with this, and you should need to not need to buy that many anymore, so there should be less demand and maybe a bit more supply of those, which is cool because it was really annoying about invitation farming. If we look at the map device thing, Keurig missions, I think it's called now, or Keurig, I don't know. Things you can click on the map device. Interesting to me is Essence. Really like when Essence is there. It makes it so much easier. You avoid so much trade. And just having essences, doing them yourself, and whenever you need to do some basic crafting, you just create items, basic items out of nowhere. Don't need to trade anybody super early. Great. I really like Expedition, so it's cool if it's here, that it is here. I don't know if it's worth it to take on the map device if you're fully stacked into it, specced into it on a tree anyway. I get it so often, but cool that it's there. I do like Expedition. Really happy about that, especially since I run the logbooks myself. So yeah, I'm not affected by other people saying, more people selling logbooks and them getting cheaper. Doesn't really affect me because I run them myself. I just talk to Jujin, all good day, and yeah, get currency. That's the idea. Some random stuff. No more books of regression. So Endless Heist is dead. I always recommend to people to do at least, not to actually do Endless Heist. If you don't know what that is, Google Endless Heist. It's so funny. But it's gone now. So I recommend people to visit the harbor a few times, or on every level up after like 55 or so, and investing chance orbs there then as well. Even though they might be very valuable this league, who knows? Investing there, and then before they actually kill Act 10 Gitava, like after everything is done and before they actually kill it, to go and run heist the logbooks they have, even buy some more level ups, but not down level at all. So this does not affect, just to get such a nice currency boost, like all kind of currency boost. It's really, really cool. Yeah, not really relevant here, but they actually removed the elemental damage vendor craft for wands, which is hilarious. I'm also not looking forward to level a caster ever again. It's terrible. And maybe it's good for the game. I don't know. I'm not there to judge, but that seems horrible, actually. It was so fun to level a caster. Now it's not, maybe. Who knows? And Arcane Surge got, like, doesn't have spell damage anymore. Why? What do I want cast speed? I feel like this is terrible as well. Like, poor caster people. That's really weird. It's not going to be a flashbang, but I'm going to leave you with one last thing. Pathfinder, I haven't explored that yet, but Pathfinder gets Wither on hit now and has Infect of Withered and always had this Master Toxin thing. So maybe Pathfinder is quite viable now, right now, for playing Poison Seismic. Who knows? I don't know. I haven't really explored that yet. I'm gonna go test a really gimped character that simulates the new changes right now. If the video is already out, you find in the description. If not, then it's not gonna be there. Then you have to check back later, or just like check the Google document in the description. Typically all the info is in there. You don't need to rewatch videos. Just like go into the Google document. Everything is in there. Yeah. So, any conclusion or something? Probably not. I think we are fine. I'm gonna try this out right now. It's probably fine. It's all okay. It's Poison Seismic. It just can't die. Oh yeah. Bye.